This is the Provoked Prawn, and this is a video to compare two fantastic wireless gaming mice. The SteelSeries Prime Wireless that you can see here, and the Viper Ultimate from Razer. Now these are two quite different, but also slightly comparable gaming mice with understated RGB lighting, accurate, fun features, and a number of different highlights that make them worth comparing. The SteelSeries Prime Wireless is a fantastic mouse with a really nice setup that includes USB-C dongle, some really slick feet, and some nice specifications as well. In the box, you see you get a USB-C 2.4 GHz wireless dongle and an adapter that you can use to extend the range and put that dongle on your desk within reach. There's then a cable which says USB-C to USB-A, connects to your PC, and allows you to game comfortably in wireless mode. The highlights of this mouse are almost certainly the battery life, because you can get up to 100 hours of battery life out of it. And using this USB-C cable, you can also get fast charge. So with just 15 minutes of being plugged in, you can get up to 40 hours of extra gaming out of it. Pretty impressive, decent battery life. It also has some good power saving capabilities and intelligent power saving that I go into a bit more depth on in the review. One of the things that I did find a bit frustrating with it is it isn't terribly easy to plug in with USB-C connection, and is a little bit fiddly because of the front design of it. Also has a very nice floppy cable which doesn't tug or cause any problems on the desk, which is a nice bonus of that design as well. It is very understated, as you'll see from the overall setup. There's only one RGB lighting zone on the mouse wheel. On the underside, you'll see there is a button that you can program, and that allows for CPI changes, and you can go up to 18,000 CPI. That's counts per inch, similar to DPI. That's just the setup of that. Now, this mouse isn't designed to be lightweight, but it does come in at around 80 grams, which isn't terrible. It's 112-ish with the cable and about 80 grams unplugged in wireless mode. So it's not as lightweight as other SteelSeries mice, and isn't necessarily a bad thing. Considering it's a wireless mouse, it's very decent weight. It's also compatible with claw, fingertip, or palm grip setup, and I found it to be slightly verging on being on the small side, but still a nice comfortable fit. You'll see on the underside it has some really slick PTFE areas, and that means it's very agile. So you not only have a lightweight, semi-lightweight mouse, but also one that's quite easy to flick around on the desk. It does have a sort of a hollow feel to it. It has this ABS textured finish to it. It's kind of a matte finish, and that sits in the hand quite nicely. Now, one of the other highlights of this mouse are the optical switches. It uses optical mechanical switches, which offer up a very satisfying click action. A very fast actuating mouse with a really satisfying click from those mechanical switches. They're optical, so they actuate with a light beam, which means they not only last longer with 100 million clicks, but they also respond really swiftly. As I said, you can change the CPI levels by pressing the button on the underside, and that actually, usually when it's connected to your PC, results in the RGB lighting changing on the mouse wheel to let you know what zone you're in. So there's 5 zones as standard, and changing between them will change the color of the RGB lighting to let you know with a visual cue what level you're on, which is obviously a very handy thing and a nice setup. Within SteelSeries engine software, you can adjust a number of other things, and I go into a bit of depth on this in the review. This mouse has 400 IPS, 40 Gs acceleration, and a 1000 Hz polling rate. It isn't quite as fancy as the Viper Ultimate in terms of the specs. For example, the Viper Ultimate has 20,000 DPI, 650 IPS, and 50 Gs acceleration, so it's faster, responsive, has a higher DPI level, etc. But that doesn't mean that SteelSeries Prime Wireless isn't great. It's a very nice mouse, very satisfying to use. The click response is one of the nicest that I've seen. A very satisfying click setup and really capable for gaming. It is one of my favorite mice, and this matte finish allows for a very nice grip. One downside that I will note though is the side buttons aren't quite up to scratch. I find that they're a bit too recessed and not terribly easy to press, especially the front one. As you'll see, it is also quite small, so if you have larger hands, you might find that this mouse is a bit too small for you. I found it was okay, not terrible. I would like to see it a little bit larger. My only real complaints are that and the side button, but the action from the click response is really good. It's a nice looking mouse. It has fantastic battery life. It's really responsive and good fun to play around with. Also, being wireless allows for a lot of easy wireless freedom. The only downside is that the USB-C cable is a bit of a nag to plug in. It's not terribly easy, but overall a great mouse. Be sure to check out the review to find out what you can do with the software. Now, the Viper Ultimate is quite a different looking mouse, as you'll see. This is an ambidextrous mouse, which means it will work for both left and right-handed gamers. And you have a lot more options in terms of buttons as well, because there are 8 programmable buttons, thanks to having 2 side buttons on either side. You'll also note that it has some nice textured grips on either side as well. Now, you can buy this mouse with a charging dock, and I'd almost certainly recommend doing that, because that means that when you're not using it, you can just pop it on the dock and it will charge up, and then you theoretically never need to plug it in. It has 70 hours of battery life, which is not as good as the SteelSeries, but considering that you have that dock, you can obviously plug it in and you won't need to worry about it. It also comes with Razer SpeedFlex cable, so again, quite a slick affair in terms of that setup. It is also lighter than the SteelSeries Prime Wireless, coming in at around 74 grams, which means it's ever so slightly lighter and more agile. You know, the design is quite a bit different looking. However, they both have that sort of matte finish to them, and they both only have one RGB lighting zone. The Viper Ultimate has a little housing on the underside, which allows you to store the dock inside it. And you'll note there that you also have a quite slick setup again in terms of the feet areas and what you can do with those. There's also a button on the underside which allows you to change between the different profiles. So you have up to 5 different onboard profiles, and then obviously a switch to turn it on and off. You'll note there are 2 gold pin connectors on the bottom as well, and that allows you to connect it with the dock for charging purposes. And there is the single RGB lighting zone in the form of the Razer logo. This is obviously covered over by your hand when you're gaming, so it's not particularly fancy. So if you're after RGB, then this isn't really the mouse for it. You will notice that there's a little recessed section on the mouse where the charging dock sits. So this is where you slip it onto the dock and then it connects with those pins. One of the things I found with this is it's a little bit fiddly to get used to in terms of the docking and how it works. And initially, I struggled with the setup of this and how to do it. I think over time, once you've got used to how that works and how it slips on, it becomes a lot easier. But it might be that you'll find some wear and tear on this after time. Also, it's worth noting that the dock itself also has an RGB lighting zone. Now, the dock connects to your PC with a micro USB cable, so instead of USB-C, you'll see it has a indicator on it to let you know which side is the right way up, so you can look at a glance without having to worry about which way up the port is. It just says top on top of it. Obviously, micro USB isn't as easy as USB-C, and that is a bit of a downer. However, in theory, you shouldn't need to plug it in anyway, because you'll be docking it for charge on a regular basis. Now, obviously, this is an ambidextrous mouse, so you have the advantage of extra buttons that you can customize within the software. You also has Razer's Hypershift technology, which is a action within the software that allows you to set a button so you can program extra button presses into there and basically get a secondary layer of action. So you actually have potentially up to 16 button presses that you can set up within the software, and I covered more of this in the review, so be sure to check out the links in the description for that. Once again, I found that the side buttons on the Viper Ultimate are a bit too recessed, same as with the Prime Wireless, unfortunately. They're not terribly easy to press. The textured grip and the matte finish on it mean it's easy to hold on to. However, one thing that I did like about it is that I didn't have a problem with the buttons on either side. With previous ambidextrous mice that I've tried, I found that I was accidentally actuating the buttons on the right-hand side when I didn't mean to. And this is not a problem with the Viper Ultimate. I found I could comfortably use this without accidentally actuating any buttons, and so that was great. The Razer Viper Ultimate also has the benefit of having Razer's optical mouse switches, which it says has a response time of 0.2 milliseconds. This means that it actuates with a light beam. However, it is a slightly different setup from the SteelSeries Prime Wireless, because those are optical mechanical switches, and they give a better response in terms of the feedback from the click, in my opinion. However, both of them are obviously accurate and quick to respond and give you a great gaming experience. Which of these mice would I choose? I think personally that the SteelSeries Prime Wireless is better. However, if you want extra buttons and the convenience of the charging dock, then the Viper Ultimate is obviously a great choice. You can see it here alongside the Logitech G502 Lightspeed, so you get an idea of what it looks like in comparison to that. And the Viper Ultimate is almost certainly a very capable mouse. The SteelSeries Prime Wireless isn't that fancy looking, but it is a real gem. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching. This has been the Provoked Prawn. Hope you found this video useful, interesting, hilarious, or otherwise. Take a look at these other videos that I think you might find interesting as well. And have a look at the description for links and other information you might find useful. Click that join button to see the benefits of being a member of my YouTube channel. And most importantly, have a great life.